Donald Trump described El Salvador, Haiti and certain African nations as S-hole countries during a meeting with politicians on Thursday, according to a report. "Why are we having all these people from S-hole countries come here?" Mr. Trump said, after being presented with a proposal to restore protections for immigrants from those countries as part of a bipartisan immigration deal, according to the Washington Post, citing aides briefed on the meeting. The president wondered aloud why the U.S. would not instead want to bring people from countries like Norway, whose prime minister he had met with the day before. In a statement, the White House did not deny the president's remarks, deferring to Mr. Trump's nationalistic view of immigration. "Certain Washington politicians choose to fight for foreign countries, but President Trump will always fight for the American people," said Raj Shah, a White House spokesman. He added that Mr. Trump will always reject temporary, weak and dangerous stopgap measures that threaten the lives of hard-working Americans, and undercut immigrants who seek a better life in the United States through a legal pathway. Congressional politicians met at the White House on Thursday to discuss a proposal reached by a bipartisan group of senators. "Oprah is clever and extraordinary, but she should not be president." Healthiest ever U.S. president prepares to meet his doctor. Una Mullally, "Oprah is like Trump but very different." Those in attendance included Senators Lindsey Graham, David Perdue, and Dick Urban, the only Democrat invited, as well as Congressman Kevin McCarthy, the House Majority Leader. Mr. Trump's comments reportedly left politicians taken aback. The Oval Office meeting came on a day of frantic negotiations on all the aspects of immigration law now in the balance. The fate of hundreds of thousands of young, undocumented immigrants remained hanging in the air on Thursday after being kicked around Washington amid fierce partisan infighting. Confusion roiled Capitol Hill as initial optimism that a deal had been struck to avoid the so-called Dreamers becoming vulnerable to deportation was quickly deflated by the White House and conservative politicians. "There has not been a deal reached yet," said White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. "However, we still think that we can get there. We're very focused on trying to make sure that that happens." Republican Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona, a member of a bipartisan working group focused on finding a legislative solution for Dreamers, the young people who came to the country illegally as children, set off a firestorm when he announced that the 6 negotiators had reached an agreement. "We're at a deal. We'll be talking to the White House about that and I hope we can move forward with it," Mr. Flake said, declining to offer specific details. "It's the only game in town." DACA deadline. When Mr. Trump ended Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, the Obama-era program that has allowed nearly 800,000 Dreamers to work and go to school in the U.S. without fear of deportation, he gave politicians a 6-month deadline to resolve the issue. As that window closes, politicians are scrambling to find a solution that also accommodates a list of demands laid out by the president, that any bill would increase border security and provide funding for a wall, that it would restrict family-based immigration, and end the State Department's diversity visa lottery. The bipartisan group said their agreement met those requirements and we are now working to build support for that deal in Congress. Meanwhile, Mark Short, the White House Director of Legislative Affairs, told reporters on Capitol Hill that negotiators still had a ways to go. A federal judge earlier this week issued a nationwide injunction, ordering that the administration reinstate the DACA program while the courts deliberate how to rule on the president's order. Politicians insist that the court order in no way diminishes the need to resolve the issue quickly. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi insisted politicians would reach a deal by next week. Guardian Service.